Hey, this is George Blaze from WCIU-TV, Channel 26, The U. You're listening to Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh, my God! Santa here? I know him. Wait. I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing.
Hey! There's no singing in the North Pole.
Yes, there is.
No, it's not.
We sing all the time.
No, it's not.
Especially when we make toys. See?
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Where are those jingle bells? There we go.
Jingle bells are being typed still.
That's the sound effects we got today.
Oh, I get to jingle the bells all day. We'll give them to our guests. They can be jingling them too.
I think so, because I'm trying to figure out if we can if we're going to have all those sound effects that I spent hours putting together before the show, or whether we won't have
Whether
those.
you'll be dropping them into the podcast.
Or I'll just be doing them myself. Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls! All right, that's it. That's all we got on today's show.
Old school.
Good night, everybody. We're very pleased to have once again in studio a couple of guys who were here almost by accident in July. Not quite by accident. They're two architects from noted.
Architect.
Yeah, I know, really. What the heck? That has nothing to do with gardening. Actually does have something to do with gardening. And we talked about that on the last show, because it's all about, your footprint of your home and the sustainability. And some of it is plants, but gosh golly, a lot of it is the stuff that goes into building your home. And we're in a world where we need to be smarter. We don't have a lot of time. And I know that both of you are, I should give their names too. Tom Bassett-Dilley from Tom Bassett-Dilley Architects Limited in Oak Park, Illinois. And Nate Kipnis from Kipnis Architecture Plus Planning. You say plus, don't you?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the...
That's Nate.
No, that's Nate. That's... there was a little crazy coming in here today. Did you say plus?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure, because it is a plus sign.
Yes.
On there.
Yes.
Okay. So Kipnis Architecture Plus Planning in Evanston, Illinois. And they're here to continue the conversation, because back in July we had I had two different PR people say, "Hey, you got to get our architect on the show." And I said, "Well, why don't we have them on the same time?" And you guys were so great together. I said, let's bring them back, and we'll talk sustainability. We'll talk about things you should be thinking about when you're planning a home, when you're retrofitting a home, and you got all these jargony phrases that are, and it's kind of rarefied air for you guys, because you guys talk about this stuff all the time. But for schlubs like me, I'm just getting introduced to this. Is schlub a word I can use? Okay. Anyway, so
Yiddish, I think.
We're going to pick up on that conversation we started 5 months ago, and we want you to join in with us if you can. 877-711-5611 is the phone number, or right on Facebook or on Twitter. Oh, get those jingle
sound
bells.
effects going.
Get them going. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we'll be right back.
really can't stay.
Okay, you're free to go.
I've got to go away.
Understood, no means no.
This evening has been
Super
so very
appropriate.
nice.
But I do understand
My mother
consent.
will start to worry.
Definitely text her right
And Father will
now.
be pacing the floor.
Here's the code and there is the
so
door.
really I'd better scurry.
I am gonna stand over
Well, maybe
here.
just a half a drink
You
more.
are in control of this
The neighbors might
thing.
think.
Invite them over if you like.
Say, what's in this drink?
Nothing but Sprite.
I wish I knew how
Just walk right out
to
the
break
door.
the spell.
I do know how to spell harassment.
I ought to say no,
I
sir.
hear you loud and
At least I'm
clear.
gonna say that I tried.
I'm trying super
I really
hard.
can't stay.
Please just go out,
Ah,
baby.
but
Just
it's
go
cold
outside.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Somebody in the studio was enjoying that, and that's the completely appropriate Christmas carol, "Baby It's Cold Outside." Welcome back to the show, and we have Nate Kipnis in studio with Tom Bassett-Dilley, couple of architects, and here we go. And I can still hear that
Yeah,
a
I
little
can
bit.
still hear that,
Andrew, it's
too.
still there.
And
Hey.
I cannot hear myself at all.
Oh no! Wait.
No, I'm over here.
Oh, you're over there.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I can't hear me.
I
so.
can hear you. You sound
Okay.
great. So don't worry. I'd say take the headsets off. Obviously, you don't need them.
I almost didn't
This
have them.
is it's Christmas chaos. Wait, let's get the jingle bells. Christmas chaos. Christmas chaos. Chaos all the way.
And our volume is back on Facebook. Yay. So
okay,
if you are
good.
listening and you'd like to watch the craziness, please join us on Facebook at The Mike Nowak Show.
So
I swear I didn't do it.
we always blame the architects.
Oh boy.
He must have a guilty conscience
Come on,
because he
man.
says he didn't do it.
You know that it's ultimately where that all goes, because nobody's going to blame the contractor. I was just following orders. I was just doing what the
I
guys
don't know what
told
this
me
is
to
on
do.
the plan. Wait,
Don't give people ideas. Come on.
wait, the incense missing on the. Wait.
Welcome, guys, back to the show. I'm not exactly sure where we jump into this, because as I mentioned, you're talking words that I hadn't heard before. Well, passive house, I know about that, and maybe we should start there, because both of you design those sorts of things. But we're also talking about, and I'm trying to find the words here because I don't remember them. I wrote them yesterday.
Decarbonization.
Global decarbonization, embodied carbon, those kinds of things. So, is this in your heads as you're putting houses together now, as we lurch into the next decade of the 21st century?
The roaring 20s now.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nate, what do you say?
Well, decarbonization is where it's at. That's what both Tom and I do. That's our goal, is to design homes, buildings that have very little carbon, moving towards as little and zero, as quick as we can. And so a lot of that is energy, but there's other things, obviously minimizing your energy, but like
Right.
you mentioned, embodied energy, embodied carbon in the materials is kind of the new frontier of looking at the materials and how they're constructed, how they're put together, and how to minimize that.
And if you look at all the Democratic presidential candidates and their plans on climate change, the AIA just published a nice voter's guide.
And that's the American Institute of Architects.
Thank you. Yeah. They all are calling for really dramatic cuts. I mean, like zero emission buildings by 2025. I think that's Yang. Zero emission buildings by 2030, or total zero carbon by 2050.
Is that even possible?
It's possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Of new
But it's
construction.
really,
seems unlikely to me.
well, it's going to take a lot of political will. It's going to take it's going to take shifting incentives. I guess
And that's new construction, not.
Oh, it's
and
everything.
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 That's society. That's no more gas, no more fossil fuels.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's a paradigm shift, and I don't know if people really understand. understand what
We
they're
can't
asking
get the
for.
other we can't get any paradigm shift in our brains right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I mean, I wrote because you guys suggested this as well about the thing going on in Madrid, COP25.
Yeah.
Where the nations around the world are getting together and trying to solidify the agreement made in Paris in 2015. And of course, the United States has not sent any high-level people at all. There's a committee there. And basically what I can tell is the committee from the United States is sticking spokes in the wheel and trying to make the whole thing collapse. What has happened to our country that we don't even care about the greatest threat to humanity?
A lot of us do
ever.
care.
Yeah, and I think, I think all the things that have come out of the White House have actually fired up people to get on board. If that's the one good thing that can come out of that.
So let's get back, though, to the paradigm shift here that you guys, I mentioned rarefied air, and I don't mean to use that as a pejorative, but you guys are in a place where you can see the big picture and what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think about all the small architectural firms, all the contractors trying to save money and skip steps, and then suddenly we're no longer carbon neutral. We're adding to it because this is cheaper. I gotta make the client happy. I hear this all the time in horticulture, especially when it comes to lawns, and all the chemicals and all the nasty stuff we put in lawns. Well, the client wants it. They don't want the chemicals. They just don't want the weeds. And they want a perfect lawn. Well, that's the result of that. So what do you tell clients?
You got to lead. You have leadership. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you...
Easier said than done when they say, bring it under budget.
The thing is, Nate and I have both designed zero energy buildings. And we're early adopters, and people who call us are early adopter types. We're hoping that gets to be a lot broader. And it needs to get, I guess that's what I'm saying, is there's a disconnect right now between what the people in leadership on this are thinking we need to do and what we're doing right now. It's a big...
And where the lobbyist money is coming from.
Oh, for sure.
That's a big problem. But, the good thing is...
We'll just skip over that.
Yeah, that's too hairy of a thing here. But, the good thing is every day renewable energy is getting cheaper, and it's getting clearer how bad fossil fuels are. And so wanting to decarbonize, we're starting to do homes that are all electric so that we don't have any carbon coming in for the house itself.
Right.
And then, like I said, the next big thing is going to be keep working on the materials. What are some low carbon materials? What are materials that actually sequester carbon? And there's some interesting choices starting to pop up.
So bringing this back to the Passive House side of things, Passive House really focuses on conservation first. And so, Mike, this ties into what you're doing on your house. There's the stuff you can see and touch, like solar panels and really efficient heat pumps.
Sure.
And then there's all the stuff you can't see and can't touch, like efficiency. And that's where the biggest gains are to be had, and the least expensive gains, or I should say cutting down our energy and making it. We're not going to get to an all renewable fed energy source if we don't cut down the waste like by 75%. And it's possible, but it's a rethinking of buildings.
We've imposed these deadlines on ourselves, and I'm not sure they're
we got 11
I
years.
don't think they're realistic. Okay, now I think they're necessary. They're necessary but unrealistic. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah.
Well, you just keep going. I mean,
Greta has her way.
Right.
Well, yeah, and
light the fire. But yeah, you're right. If we're a very divided country,
she's a
it's gonna be hard.
communicator. She's not boots on the ground.
She's not a policymaker. Yeah,
She's not a policymaker. She's not an architect. She's not a contractor. I mean, I love what she's doing, and I can't believe she's taking all this heat about it, which is insane. It's just leave this 16-year-old alone, please. Okay.
She's doing fine with that. Actually, it's pretty impressive how she handles it.
Yeah, that she changed her Twitter profile.
Right. Bing.
Yeah, she got the ding on that one. Well, And I'm kind of jumping ahead to, you got an award recently, and we'll talk about that. But when I went through the award winners, it was nice to see that there was an affordable housing
Oh, yeah.
construction up
Yeah.
there that got an award too.
Landon Baker's Tierra Linda
Yeah.
in Chicago. Actually, Chicago had a great showing at the Passive House National Conference.
Yeah, let's talk about that because we talked about the COP25, but also the Passive House Conference in D.C. just ended the other week. And you won a couple of awards.
Yeah,
or you won an award, 2 awards for one building,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. A house we did for a wonderful couple out in Downers Grove.
And that's Tom Bassett-Dilley, by the way.
That's the architect. Yeah, the owner is Tom Smith and his family. But so we got a best single family, and source zero, meaning it's a building that makes as much energy. It makes more than enough energy. Gosh, I can't live in getting tongue-tied on this. It offsets the amount of energy it uses every year by its solar panel. And they have a little Tesla like Nate's that they charge with that solar.
And it's a
array
small
also.
home.
It is. It's about 1,800 square
Yeah.
feet. Yeah. And that was one of the things that Jerry liked about it. It's like, okay, if we're really going to do this, we're not going to build too big.
It's not
doesn't have a basement.
It's an attainable design for people.
Yeah. Although I will say that one amazing slide that Sam Rashkin, who's the guy who started DOE Energy Star, he's an architect, talks about this stuff, showed in his presentation was the graphs of median family income against median home price, and it just continues to diverge wildly. Single-family homes are expensive.
Yeah.
And
Well, as I read on one of your sites, I can't remember, I was looking at both of them, the larger scale you do, the easier it is to stay in budget. If you're doing a single family, it's going to cost more per
square foot.
square foot.
If it's smaller, yes.
So if you can do a large building,
That's the conundrum.
yeah,
That's why
because
you get
people want to
McMansions.
live in their homes.
But you need to do it at all scales. So affordable housing, small and big. You need
Yeah.
to be able to, ratchet the bigger houses down a bit, but they're going to do them one way or the other. And they're ready, willing, and able. So get them to do it.
And part of why I brought up that affordable housing, the Tierra Linda, we were talking paradigm shift. That's bringing it to a different population that may not consider that they could live in a house that's more energy efficient.
Oh, yeah. And that equity side of things
Yeah.
is so important because if you get people who are struggling with their budget anyway and they have to pay a lot in energy and live in an uncomfortable, unhealthy situation, that's just terrible.
That's
Yeah.
you.
I'm raising my
Yeah.
hand because that's my, you alluded to this earlier, the work I'm having done on my house. And I've talked about this on Mighty House Home Improvement Radio with Ron Calgo because yes, give him a big ding. Boy, that was a loud one. Ron is doing the work on my home. Here's the problem. I have several problems. I have a 130-year-old home. It's a barn. It's a barn. And we have so much air circulation and heat loss that what we're doing, and what we're doing is we're insulating it. We're insulating the balloon frame walls. We're going to put in new windows, tuck pointing, which is not about air efficiency, but other water efficiency at the base of the home. I had to get a grant to do this, and I'm lucky I qualified. I had to go through a lottery. I had my name pulled out of a hat so that I could afford this. Otherwise, I would be spending yet another winter in this icy cold home, spending a lot of money on energy. This is not sustainable. And yet, I look on your sites and the number of square feet that needs to be changed over is like some 2.5 trillion or something, or is it billion? I don't know. On one of the sites I saw there. So
Probably the 2030 site.
yeah. And both of you have 2030 groups, and 2030 seems to be
And
the
what
magic.
is 2030,
Yeah.
first off?
So I'm the national co-chairman of the AIA's 2030 commitment. So it's a program from the AIA to help architects get to net zero, and it's being done in a stepped fashion. So currently we want to be 70% better for every building type than a 2003 equivalent. In 15 days, that jumps to 80%. Every 5 years, it gets tighter, and at 2030, it goes to zero. And so we're trying to sign up lots of architects. We currently have 600 firms, which are a lot of big firms too, so it's a lot of actual buildings, and we're trying to double that in 3 years and lots of other things.
And there's a 2030 that you're involved with.
That's the same group.
Oh, it
yeah.
is the same
yeah.
group.
We're all
because I
part
was
of the-
trying to figure from from the sites. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, 2030 is a big year, and it's a big goal. All right. That's Tom Bassett-Dilley, Nate Kipnis. We're talking sustainable architecture. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Our fine musicians, we practice every day. And if you'd like to join us, we'll show you the way. Come join us, just take a part and join
All right. Mary Tyler Moore moment.
Or something.
No, keep. That's the punchline, Andrew. That's why we had to put that up there. Welcome back to the Mike. No, I almost took out the Mary Tyler Moore moment there. It's welcome back to the show. I'll bet you haven't watched a lot of Dick Van Dyke's show, have you, Andrew?
I have not. No.
Okay, there you go. I will show you that clip on YouTube so you understand how that bit works. Welcome back to the program. We're talking sustainable, and this is a good time to talk about sustainable architecture and the sorts of things that we were mentioning before, net zero and all of that that I can never remember because it's cold and as we get into cold weather, this is when you think about these things.
And I was actually going to take 2 steps back for people that don't understand what net zero is, all the talk of getting to net zero. What does that mean for the average homeowner?
You want to take that, Nate? You're the 2030
Okay.
chair.
So, well, there's a couple different ways to define it, but basically you're producing as much energy as you use over the course of a year. So it doesn't mean you're off the grid. That's a whole nother thing that is very difficult, if not impossible, in this climate, or at least this current climate.
And you don't mean the temperature,
weather.
you mean the political climate and the
temperature.
Oh, so
as it gets
okay,
warmer,
so you do mean
it will
that.
be a little easier, but that's not a great thought.
Right now.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's not a great thought that we're going to get that much warmer. Sure. It's like living on the street in Chicago versus living on the street in L.A.
Yeah. I think
like
we'll be
that.
pretty close to Louisiana here in about 10 years? Less?
We do.
Hard to know.
That seems exaggerated.
Well, I know. I saw a chart on that a while. Climate moving north. But yeah, it's
we do a lot of energy modeling, both of us, and there are available some weather statistics of future weather, and you start to look at that, and go, like Tom's saying, it's as if the country's temperature is moving northward.
But anyway.
No, but
more happy thoughts.
Yeah, right.
No, but the point being,
efficient
and we mentioned this during the break when we were talking about this, and we started this conversation in the last segment, which is, how do you afford this? There's a lot of people listening to the show right now say, well, that's good for them. They can build something from scratch, and you look at some of your designs and you go, oh, those people have money. Isn't that nice? I don't have that money. And I can't do that. So how do I survive this world, especially when there are billions of homes across the world that need to have these treatments?
So there are options at every price level. It's just that options narrow in some respects. We were involved with the Green Homes for Chicago back in 1999 and the Green Bungalow Initiative, which was about renovation, which is, you look at Chicago, we're 99% built or whatever. It's mainly about rehabs. I mean, we're lucky we get to work on both new homes and rehabs, but most people are working with what they have.
I think the thing is that if you have the opportunity to really change a surface, like you're going to redo your siding or you're going to do a gut on the interior, then you have an opportunity there to make a big difference in your energy without much of an upgrade in cost. And you can justify that over a 10-year energy savings, something like that. But what we do for a lot of clients is we'll kind of master plan their way to zero and say, all right, right now, here are the things you can do that you plan to do that are part of the work that you're looking at right now, or that you can always do, like you can retrofit insulate without too much inconvenience. But yeah, doing a gut rehab and replacing your mechanicals is kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's very expensive.
So just like Tom was saying, so maybe you can't do everything now, but you pre-wire, you put a conduit up to the roof where you think the solar panels will go. You pre-wire to the garage for electric car charging. You bring a conduit down for a battery system in the mechanical room. That costs next to nothing, and then that way you don't have to rip the walls up later. And the other interesting thing that I've always wanted to do is hook up painters and insulators, because when a painter comes in and starts painting the perimeter walls, you're never going to paint them again. You have an opportunity to insulate right there and then paint, and then you're done.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little synergy.
Those holes you're getting drilled on the outside, you can do that from the inside too on a frame
Well, I know
building.
that, and we decided that the outside was a better way to go with this house because we have wood, I keep saying shingles, siding.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the city came and we got the grant from the city, and we had to bid this out, and they just assumed we're going to slap on Tyvek and vinyl siding. And Kathleen and I said, no, that will ruin the character of this house. We
Good for
don't. We don't want that.
No vinyl siding.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are you guys opposed to
That's
vinyl?
a bad material health-wise, and
Another petroleum product.
yeah,
And it'll just crack and peel
and a
and
short
throw
short
away.
shelf life,
That's a throwaway
but that's-
material.
and endocrine disruptor when they make it.
Oh my
It's very,
goodness!
very bad.
Well, you might as well roll in your lawn then with all the chemicals on it too, and
Yeah.
eat some grass if you're going to put that on.
and stay there
But
while they're.
that's de rigueur to put vinyl.
cheap.
Everybody puts
Yeah.
the vinyl siding on. That's every house does that. They looked at us like we were from Mars when we said, "No, we're going to drill the holes in the wall and we're going to blow in cellulose."
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that say they'd rather spend the money inside than outside, so let's just put up the cheap vinyl siding and be done with it.
Vinyl is so cheap because it's a byproduct of making gasoline,
Yeah.
and they don't have anything to do with it. So we've got this whole infrastructure of these vinyls and plastics everywhere.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ron's listening, because if he is, I'd love his comment on that. I mean, he does, again, it's what does the client see? What does the client think is efficient and often inexpensive? And you guys now have to do the selling job on this.
But this brings up the point about the materials and how difficult this is, because there's no perfect choice. It's like,
It's all
Right,
trade off. Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
There's all kinds of compromises
yeah.
in this.
We're stepping out of what we have right now, which is so reliant on petroleum industry, and moving towards something else. But I remember having a crisis really early on in my career, wanting to make like the perfect building. I'm like, as soon as I drive a truck to bring materials there, I'm compromised. So, I could just make a little wood lean-to in the woods, but that's not exactly what we're looking
No,
for, shelter-wise.
No.
So how about somebody who's got just a small budget and might be doing a kitchen remodel? I saw some photos that you had in your article about going all electric.
A kitchen is going to be about materials and kind of the healthiness of the products, the adhesives and the sealants and stuff like that, where it's made. It's not necessarily a great thing to get cabinets from the other side of the world. It'd be good to get Midwestern cabinets, right?
With low VOC
Yes.
and everything else.
Oh, yeah. Healthy materials.
But if you want to phase out gas,
Yeah.
you can go to an induction cooktop, which is all of our new projects and a lot of our remodels are all electric.
Yeah.
We eliminate gas and put in an induction cooktop, which is not like cooking on electricity, like a resistance thing at all.
And I think that's part of the problem, because I have, when you say electric, I think of the old baseboards.
No.
And,
Oh, yeah.
This
and
is night and day.
Yeah.
I know.
And the old
But-
stove with the red glowing
yeah.
with
thing.
the
No,
red
no,
glowing thing,
That's
it's,
not
and you
good.
and you
Yeah.
don't touch it when it's glowing red. Okay, I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was when I read your article about Nate. And by the way, you can find a lot of this information at my website, MikeNovak.net. I've got a lot of links here to stuff they're doing. And you wrote about electric being most sustainable way to heat your home. And I thought, well, yeah, if you think about it for 10 seconds, that's absolutely true, because it might use fossil fuels, but it might not. Whereas gas is a fossil fuel, and
right.
end of story, end of competition right there.
And every day the grid is getting more renewable, and so it's moving towards that. You can't wait till the grid's perfect. Let's start now. Let's get everything electric, like Tom said, induction cooktops, air source or ground source heat pumps. There's an air source water heater that takes heat out of the air and puts out cold air, and same with a dryer. And so those are the four things that normally use natural gas.
But what we're the largest gas producer in the world right now, and that's, everybody.
Fracking.
Yay, USA,
so fracking.
USA.
Quote, clean energy.
Yeah.
Great article in the New York Times last week about methane. Everybody thought it was all coming from cows, but There's a ton
Natural
of it
gas.
coming from natural gas where they're supposed to be burning it off. They're supposed to be containing it, and they're not.
Yeah.
Somebody did an infrared study, and then it's huge.
Wow.
So yeah, natural gas is it's better than
Coal, and that's it.
yeah, and it's actually with all the methane.
Well,
it's
that's
not
supposed to
better
be
than-
the
Right.
transition energy source.
No, yeah,
we're
yeah.
kind
We're
of done
past.
with
We're
that.
past that.
Yeah, and
We're-
fracking, of course, has got all kinds of problems that everybody knows. But
Ask the people in Oklahoma who never used to have earthquakes.
well, yeah, yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dear.
So we're going to have to break here in a second, but Nate, we talked about one of Tom's homes. I want to talk about the Foursquare in Chicago that you did, and you did some interesting retrofitting on it. And I look at that. My home's not brick, okay, but and I'd like to ask about the difference between brick and wood frames as well. How does that make a difference in the work you're doing? We have Nate Kipnis in the studio along with Tom Bassett-Dilley. We're talking sustainable ways to build your home. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. All right. This is in honor of the season, Taco Bell's Chicken. We played that not too long ago, but
I think when the chicken people were on.
I think a lot of people play Taco Bell during the holidays. And Tom, get off the floor, please.
I was just having a little nap.
He was re-engineering the studio.
He's helping us
Now, if
put
you
this
just-
together. All right, welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, Tom Bassett-Dilley, Nate Kipnis in studio.
And Ron Cowgill on Facebook.
What did Ron say? Anything?
He says Nate makes us install things correctly and won't let us use vinyl siding.
There you go. So that's from the guy who's actually putting it together. You wanted to get something across. It's a very good point, Nate. We talked about it during the break, and that's you don't do things in isolation. It's not windows and it's not the heater, separately. You have to think of the whole system, don't you?
Right. So the key thing, kind of what we've been talking about, is the perimeter being really tight, and that means windows and insulation. If you do them one at a time, the heat just goes right around that. It doesn't really care. And then the mechanical system then gets to be downsized correctly. And then maybe it's a different control system that works that. And that really all needs to be done relatively at the same time.
But that's awesome. I mean, awesome. Also, that can be expensive if you do one at a and this is the way people think. People like me who are trying to save a few bucks and they know they need to have this done. They think, well, I could get the furnace done, and then in a couple of years I can do the windows, and in a couple of years
That's backwards. Yeah. What you're doing is right. You insulate first. You insulate.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
But what you're doing is right. You insulate first.
Yeah.
And then your mechanical system doesn't need to be as big.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then you go ahead and replace that the next year or 5 years down the road. I guess what Nate's saying, the way I hear it is, it's best if you can do it all at once, but you can also plan it to be phased.
And we also, during the break, we were talking about if you can't do it right off the bat, pre-wire for solar panels, pre-wire for an electric car, pre-wire for the battery in a big
If you've got a wall open, take care of everything.
and it's dirt cheap to run some empty conduit around. That's a smart move.
Can I retrofit to do electric in this house? I mean,
yeah.
I've got this forced air system that
yeah,
sure.
I would love to get rid of.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's really cool about these air source heat pumps that we've been using, like Fujitsu, Mitsubishi, there's an outdoor unit that looks like an air conditioner, but it's smaller and it's way more efficient. And it runs in air conditioning mode and also runs in heating mode. But what's really interesting about it, when it comes to the inside, it can have a number of different systems to deploy that heating and cooling. It can be just a box mounted up high on the wall, like a ductless kind. But you can also have fully ducted, and then there's sort of things in between that kind of look like that. So, you could replace your furnace basically with a air source heat pump blower.
Okay, let's. We're going over my house right after
Okay,
this.
yeah.
and we're gonna
coffee and-
we're gonna
And so-
plot this.
So how does cost compare on something like that to replacing, just say a 2,000 square foot home furnace with a new Mitsubishi system?
Depends on how you do it, how you duct it. I mean, you've got duct
if
work
you're,
there.
if you're taking,
You're just
if
replacing
you
the
have a
unit
duct, it's a
1-to-1.
50-year-old house.
Gosh,
You're taking it out.
I'm
No.
not going
This is,
to go
yeah,
on air saying
the
that.
problem is we've got about 18 to 20 decades of homes, and
Yeah.
it's like really
Yeah.
difficult to just throw out a.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious how the cost would even compare. If your furnace is, and then you have that whole thing of letting the furnace go till it absolutely dies, and you have to do something versus planning ahead and figuring it out. But that's a different topic.
Plan ahead? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. What do you,
I don't think it's a magnitude of difference. I think it's relatively small. But I would need. I'll look that up. And
Yeah,
I'll
I'm kinda
post it on
curious.
your.
So,
Curious.
a couple of things. Correction on something I said before we went to the break about the home in Chicago there. Nate, would you want to correct me on that?
Yeah, the one you're referring to, that is a new house. It looks, it definitely fits into the urban fabric. It looks like it's always been there.
I thought it was a retrofit.
Well, and that's maybe a good thing you think that. And so sometimes.
I mean, it looks great. That's the other thing. I could tell you right now about the ugly, but ugly home that's across from mine because they tore down an old frame house and put up this box across the street.
With vinyl siding.
With I don't even know if it has that, but I have to look at this all the time. It might be efficient. I don't know. I know it's ugly.
Well,
I do know that.
Well, the trick with architecture is to mix art and technology. You can't just do one or the other. So
Here.
Or neither.
Or neither, right? Especially neither.
You took a lot of the materials that were in the old building and refurbished them.
Well,
and
so
reused
they,
them.
No. So this
Okay.
was
I got it wrong again. Okay.
it was deconstructed, and there's a couple companies that do that, and you get a great tax break out of that. So you should
okay.
definitely look into that if anyone's going to be doing that. But what we did do is on that street, which is West Wilson, there's a number of homes that look similar, and we made it just fit into that, even though it's new. But we like to look at how old homes used to work before energy got cheap. So there's natural ventilation in there. There's the ability to have remote skylights up at the top. You can open low windows. You get a great breeze through it. We've got transom windows over the doors to let the air go into the rooms.
I have windows that haven't been opened in decades in my house. So I'm kind of wondering when I have windows that work, what's that going to do to the airflow in
help.
the house?
Yeah.
I know it'll help. I think it's going to be wonderful. I mean, the idea that in the spring I can open my windows finally and get air in my house
and get some good flow through
is
it.
a really weird concept.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's a barn, as I said, so we get lots of air in there anyway.
So it's neat that transoms are basically state-of-the-art 1900. They're really great. And, the airflow is all good to get that. And sometimes we set up the skylights to work on different sides. So if it's a noisy street, you can pick the other side so you don't get the noise coming through.
And, Tom, you mentioned, before we go, we got 2 minutes left, that you're working on a multi.
We're the Passive House consultants on a 45-unit multifamily going for net zero, hoping to qualify for Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation grant.
Nice.
Which is a program called the Zero Energy Building Grant, and it's a huge boon to the zero energy world for not-for-profits or municipal entities. So, that one, we're at 5 stories of residential. We're pushing the limit of what you can do with net zero. And cost delta, we haven't got all the numbers in yet, but it looks like it's less than a 10% upcharge to get this really super efficient envelope and big solar array.
And that's rentals?
That's rentals.
Yeah.
In Oak Park.
That'll be great.
Visionary client.
That's interesting. I mean, anybody can do. Yes, let's do the quick hit for you, Nate, because you've got a new operation happening in another state.
Yeah, so as of the first of the year, we're going to have a presence in Boulder, Colorado, which is where I went to undergrad.
Congrats.
And I kind of like the fact that it's Evanston and Boulder and not Chicago and Denver. I think that's
there you go.
That's kind of more me.
Selective,
Right. Yeah. Every little liberal college town will be next.
So you're trying to take over the world here.
Well, no, just wanting to get into Boulder a little bit. That's good.
Well, I want
receptive audience.
Yes.
And give me. I'll just do it for you. TBDayArchitects.com is Tom Bassett-Dilley's website, and Kipnis Kipnis.com is the website. You can find it at mine, MikeNovak.net. You guys are great. We're going to do this again.
Love to.
In another 5 months.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming in. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Welcome to the second hour of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root and bacon. What about those sweet potatoes?
Unbelievable.
All I need is good food to eat.
Unbelievable.
All I need is good food to eat.
Keep dancing.
All I need is good tools to make me music for
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki and Andrew. I got to tell you, Andrew, we went back on here, and all of the new stuff that I put in has disappeared.
Boy.
All of the
Oh
stuff.
boy.
I did not delete them. That's
No,
That's,
because
unbelievable
it's
stuff
because it
just
was here
goes
earlier,
missing.
and then when we replugged, now it's all disappeared from the computer. So I'm just going.
Which should have nothing to
I,
do with
I-
each other.
I'm speechless.
We had some
I don't know.
studio rehab happening over the break, folks.
I cannot believe it. I just want to tear my hair out right now. Welcome back to the show.
This is not normal.
I can't even play that. I can't
That's
believe
why I
that.
said
All
it.
right, all right. So yeah, we get the box up and running, and then the computer files all disappear. And I'm thinking I've got to reboot.
We have a 4-minute break coming up shortly.
I know it. I'm going to do that. In fact, I'm going to reboot right now, even as we speak.
So welcome back to hour 2 of today's show while you're rebooting.
Are we having fun yet? Welcome back to the show, and in this hour, it's
Free for all.
it is. It's free fall. Yeah, there's a difference.
A little
okay?
bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. In fact, we invite our listeners to call us at 877-711-5611. Talk about anything you want. I don't care. I don't care if it's garden related. I don't care if it's sustainability. If you want to talk about Saturday Night Live, that's great. If you want to talk about what else?
Otherwise, we have a whole list.
Something dumb. Go ahead. Give us a call. Or write it on Facebook, and we'll riff on it.
Or
But
if you want to continue the energy discussion from the prior hour. Wow,
yeah.
that could have just gone on and on.
those guys are great. They are just
Nate Kipnis and Tom Bassett-Dilley.
yeah, and I just think they're wonderful, and they're going to be back because they know so much about it. But I think the questions we ask are real, which is who can do this realistically. I mean, I'm glad they're on it. That's their job. But these goals are really nightmarish.
Well, one of the things we were talking about after we wrapped up in a little bit on the break, too, was to plan ahead. That we were talking specifically furnaces or air conditioning units, that rather than just going, my furnace is out, you're in a panic, you've got to buy something new. Start doing your research now. If you are interested in getting something more energy efficient, if you are interested in saving some money, start researching, see what other systems are out there, what your options are, what might need to be done. The whole plan ahead they were talking about of adding conduit and adding wiring now, even if you don't think you're going to have an electric car for 5 years, but you're doing some renovation work, put it in now. Plan ahead so it's not a big expense later, or it's not a surprise, or you can get that electric heat pump that you want because you've already spec'd it out and it's not 10 degrees and you need a new furnace and you have to get whatever you can get.
Exactly. Hey, and a couple of things coming up that I want to let folks know about, and we'll talk more in the next segment about It's a Wonderful Slice, because that happens next week.
And City Grange.
And no, that's what I'm going to talk about now. We'll get to Wonderful Slice later because it's going to be a cast of thousands, including Andrew, including Ellie, including Ron Cowgill and Rich Cowgill. And by the way, did you know Andrew's mom was on Mighty House yesterday?
No.
Oh, yeah. And I
That
said,
was fun.
do I have to get her on my show now, too? Is that how that works, Andrew?
I mean, she wrote a book about our ranch in North Dakota. I don't know if that connects to
It probably
the
does.
children's book, but there you go.
You have to show me the book, and
I
then
will.
we'll see if we can do it.
Absolutely.
But this Thursday, the 19th, the Frozen Robins are appearing at City Grange, 5500 Northwestern Avenue at Catalpa in Chicago at 6:30. 6:30 to 8, we'll be caroling and having fun and drinking cider and
Libations.
Bring your friends, bring your enemies. All right, we'll talk more about that when we come back. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. I'm going to turn on a computer.
Make a little birdhouse in your soul, not to put too fine a pine on it. Say I'm the only bee in your bonnet.
All right, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, what a great lead-in.
We thought we had, why? Oh, that's true, because we're talking.
It's Christmas bird count time.
Yeah.
How about that?
Talk to us about
Christmas.
Christmas.
They need little jingle bells in the background, but hey, it's Christmas bird count happens every year. We had Judy Pollock on last year. She joined us to talk about the bird counts. But this is an annual event sponsored by organizations throughout the world, including the Audubon Society.
Aha.
And it starts December 14th, that was yesterday, through January 5th. And basically, Christmas bird count is experienced birders and new birders and everybody in between getting together and contributing to citizen science by going out, observing the winter birds, and doing a count of the birds that is all tallied up and turned in to kind of track what's going on in the bird world. What's happening with populations, which species are here, which species are missing, who are the stray species, etc. There's a lot of different things happening. Some of the big ones are Chicago Lakefront Bird Count, which is always on Christmas Day. So you can get out on the lakefront on Christmas, go count the birds, get away from whatever's going on in your house.
Yeah. That's the reason you go out is to get away from the family.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Evanston North Shore Bird Count happens on December 28th, and the Waukegan Christmas Bird Count is always on New Year's Day morning.
Uh-huh.
Thinking maybe I'll head up there this year if it's not too cold. That could be interesting. I've never done a Christmas bird count.
I'm kind of surprised that because
I'm always too busy.
I guess. All right.
I'm always too busy, but you don't need to be a National Audubon Society or belong to any group at all. I'm going to put a link up. Ellie will put a link up, but you can go to the National Audubon Society's website, look up bird counts, and find all the local ones. And you can also look up a lot of the local birding groups as well.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's fun. Bring the family. You might learn something about birds.
And have fun and get outside.
Yeah, we talked last year on our holiday show right before the big holiday about that with Judy Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one in the ditch, as you remember. I know. I make
Except
fun
not
of,
on Christmas.
Not on Christmas. And I mean,
well, she could be. We don't know this, but
birds.
I don't think
no,
so.
She's
counting birds.
Counting birds from a ditch. And she said that was like the last place available. So
I think she called us from there going, hey,
I know. So
yeah, but it's it's just a great way, especially if you want to get into bird watching or you're interested in it or you just want to get outside. If it's a gorgeous day, it's an organized activity where you're going to learn something and have some fun. And then from what I've heard, quite often they go out for breakfast afterwards. So there's that too.
Now I'm interested.
Now we got your attention.
Now I'm interested in it. Speaking of breakfast and speaking of food, I saw, here we go in the holidays. And I know, I got to ask, did you ever get your garlic in the ground?
Yes.
There you go.
And I got the last of the bulbs in, last Saturday before it got cold?
Okay. Well, it's going to get warm again. I mean,
yeah, but by that point it's too late.
And that's a message to you folks who are sitting there and go, I never got my bulbs in the ground. It's going to be in the 40s later in the week. You can put them in. Do it. Just get it done. They sit in your garage, you lose them.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But you get them in the ground
They become
now.
pate for the
That's
chipmunks.
Right. But I got this notice from Renee's Garden about their closeout sale, 40% off on remaining garlic. And I got that this week. I got this 3 days ago. And I thought, okay. Now, obviously, there are parts of the country that are warmer than we are.
Yeah.
Where you might put that in the ground. But I'm telling you.
Get the hard nut garlic in.
You could still do it. You could do it. So they have that. And then my buddy David Tenenbaum sent me stuff about Seeds of Change.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if I could find it, and of course I'm not going to be able to find it, but there's something. Oh, and did I close the? I've closed everything. Okay, that's good. Good, Michael. Because he was telling me about that, and these. Speaking of holidays, these are kinds of gifts.
Yes.
That you can give to people. That, in fact, if I can find that,
and you may even want to give a gift certificate for seeds as opposed to seeds, because you don't know what somebody might be growing in their yard.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was, I was looking at some of the articles about what you can do for the holidays. There's a climate forward. Oh, that's being smart about holiday lights. There's a couple of climate forwards that came out about giving for the holidays. This one is about. Let me get to the one. I'm doing a little search here. If you got something in front of you, just grab it.
Okay.
But where is it here?
Because I'll change topics, but we can go on with
Yeah,
that
go
one.
ahead. Go ahead. Change topics.
So this was kind of interesting.
I'll get back to it.
Going
Believe me.
back to what we talked about last week with Adam Minter and resale and how fast fashion is rapidly filling up all of the resale shops and causing its own set of problems. There are several articles, including one in The Guardian, talking about Christmas sweaters and all the cheap Christmas sweaters that 95% of Christmas sweaters are made wholly or partly of plastic materials. A charity says the garment has become one of the worst examples of fast fashion, now recognized as hugely damaging to the environment. And this is the charity Hubbub, analyzed 108 garments on sale this year from 11 stores in Britain that are expensive and a bunch of lower cost brands. And it says that most people just go out and buy a new sweater, probably wear it once, throw it out, or put it away and buy another one next year. Up to 65% of sweaters get worn once, and that's it. And then they get thrown away. And they're mostly made of plastic because they're acrylic. And they have all the plastic reindeer and glitter and sequins and all that other stuff. And then they just wind up either in the landfill or going into the stream of unused clothes that we talked about last week with Adam Minter.
Yeah. So
rewear your Christmas sweaters or don't buy them to begin with.
And there was an article in the New York Times about sustainable holiday shopping. It's kind of interesting. They did a survey. Half the respondents in the survey, which was conducted by the consulting firm Accenture, said they would opt for lower carbon delivery options like slower shipping or in-store pickup if possible when doing their holiday shopping. Now, here's the problem. Are you thinking of yourself or are you thinking of the person who's supposed to receive the gift? You think, I got to get it there by Christmas.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't. And that's another thing. I went searching around about how sustainable all this fast delivery is, and it's not very. Okay, because
and it comes in giant boxes for something.
Comes in giant boxes, so there's a lot. The cardboard use is astronomical, and the other thing is, if you want expedited delivery, often it's going to be a half-filled van or something, and that's just a huge waste of energy. Now, Amazon claims it's trying to cut back its energy use, and I'll cop to it right here because I'm going to be really honest. I do not use Amazon. I may have used it once or twice in my entire life. You will not find me on the Prime list. All right? I don't believe in it. I don't want them taking over the world. I'm sure you can get cheap stuff. Goody for you. I'm not interested. And I know I sound really old and cranky, but I don't care if I sound really old and cranky because it's putting businesses out of work, people and businesses out of jobs. And
in 2018, e-commerce generated 1.3 million tons of container board or cardboard.
Yeah.
For e-commerce and online shipping.
So here's what this story says. Roughly half the people surveyed by Accenture said they'd be glad to give and receive secondhand things, which again goes back to our conversation last week with Adam Minter. And we're not talking about shabby cast-off, they write. Think about distinctive collectibles, beautiful old books, vintage jewelry, and antique household items. And what I would say is find it in your own home. I could give people gifts for years based on what we have sitting around our home right now.
Or make something.
Or make something as long as you're not
food.
That's not bad. When it comes to beauty products, which generally come with a lot of petroleum-based plastics, there are brands out there to help you recycle or reuse plastic containers, others that aim for zero waste or sustainable packaging. You can even get vegan beauty products. I'm sure you know about that.
There's a lot of vegan beauty products out there. Yeah,
yeah, and you write about them in Natural Awakenings. So you're the expert here. Don't make me talk about vegan beauty products. And if you want to make a climate-friendly donation in someone's name instead of making a purchase, you have a lot of options. There's just
Yeah.
every week we talk about something.
Or an experience. Take somebody on a bird count.
Yep.
Take somebody out on a hike. Give them tickets to something. Give them tickets to a movie. Give them tickets to a museum, to a special exhibit, something like that, where they're going to learn, they're going to have fun, and you're not buying something that's entering into the waste stream down the road. I can't talk today.
And gift cards, if you want to go that route, at least you're not buying stuff. If your friends want to buy stuff, they'll at least buy what they want. You talked about a meal. As you said, maybe you could help them out. Maybe you could rake their yard and leave the leaves in the garden. Use a rake instead of a blower. We had a thing on Facebook the other day about that. You tell us your story there, Peggy.
Wow, I set off a firestorm on that one.
Yes, you did.
So Friday morning, 2 different lawn trucks were in the neighborhood with leaf blowers. Where they found the leaves to clean up, I don't know, but they were out. And I had a Friday rant that I put up on Facebook, and it is still going, from people who understood where I was coming from and a lot of people who didn't, and a lot of people who were saying, but there's still leaves, and we need to do what the homeowners want us to do.
They don't necessarily want you to blow them. They just want them away.
They just want them removed.
Well, and our friend Christy Weber at Christy Weber Landscapes wrote and said she's doing her best to get her workers to use rakes, but the blowers result in less overtime.
Yeah, less overtime, but she also added everything they pick up, they take back, and they compost.
They compost it. So good for them for doing that. This goes again. It goes back to the conversation we had in the first hour. What does the client want?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the client doesn't even know what the client wants. So just get the job done.
Yeah.
And if you can do it in a sustainable way, that's great.
Or the contracting company doesn't know the alternatives. This is the way they've always done it. This is what they figure they have to do. This is what they think people want. So they do it. They don't have the time or the resources or the whatever to come up with a different way of doing it.
Yeah. So these are things to well, anyway, that got us off track to the
down that rabbit hole.
But what it does say is it's nuts that people are still out this time of year blowing leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I know you still can, and they're still all over the place. At least if you're going to do that, put them into compost them, put them on the garden bed, so they'll do some good.
Do something with them.
Yeah.
And goes back to what you were saying of eco-friendly, as it were, holiday gifts. Give somebody a certificate to go rake their lawn.
Exactly. So there you go. I'm sorry. I'm distracted.
You're distracted.
I still think I could get this thing to work, and I know that at one point I remember once doing this, and I had turned something off accidentally, and it makes me wonder: have I done that? Have I hit the mute button here by accident in all the madness we were trying to get this? But that's okay.
Know.
All right,
I don't know.
We got about a minute left. The other story that I mentioned was the Christmas lights. Be smart about Christmas lights. It says that this time of year, between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, American suburbs are up to 50% brighter than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Even after midnight. Our holiday lights are so impressive they can be observed from space.
Some people never turn them off.
The Energy Department estimates that Americans burn 6.6 billion with a B kilowatt hours annually using holiday lights. That's enough electricity to power more than 800,000 homes for a year. Especially, there's this place in Logan Square that does that. All right, we'll talk more about that when we come back. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we're in free fall. Amazing what you find on the YouTube. All together now.
Doodle-doo. Doodle-doo-doo.
This is dueling jingle bells, basically.
Something.
Yeah.
Dueling reindeer.
These guys are good. Actually, it's me playing. Peggy and I are playing this right now. She's on the banjo. I'm on the guitar.
Ellie's coming in on harmonica soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.
Woo!
We're an hour and 35 into the show, and we got the Prodcom working. How about?
Yay! Okay. Well, good morning and welcome to today's show.
because-
Now, if I can only get my talking working today, would be good.
And so I've been waiting all show long to play.
Oh my God!
Okay, so
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And of course,
Real butter.
I haven't played that once during the holiday
We
season.
might as well get Alan in there too.
But Ellen's not Christmas.
Yeah,
so
there
much.
is.
Or I could play.
Here comes Santa and his reindeer with a Yuletide message for all to hear. Make it a white Christmas.
No, I don't think there will be. Not according to Rick.
No, I don't
We'll
think
see.
so.
We'll have him on in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome back to the Mike
Yeah.
Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
So you were talking about lights before we went to the break.
Yeah. So-
Holiday lights and how much energy they are using, and they can be seen from space. And I said, some people never turn them off. They don't have timers. They're on at 2 a.m. They're on at 6 a.m. They're on at 8 o'clock
and
at
that's
night.
part of what they say. The biggest thing you can do is switch to LEDs. All right. If you haven't done that, you really need to get your
And make
that
sure
was-
you get the cool white ones. Otherwise, they just look blue.
Yeah. Well, the warm light one.
I mean, yeah, the warm
You want
white.
them to look
yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
The warm.
Otherwise,
light.
the
Yeah.
cool ones just look blue. They're
And
weird.
some people just hold on to them because, well, I've had them all these years. I don't want to go out and buy some more. Somebody wrote, and I saw one of these articles, they said, well, buy your friend some Christmas lights. And I hadn't thought about that, though, because it seems like, oh, no, that's kind of personal, don't you think? Getting somebody their own Christmas,
yeah,
my
what,
feeling-
you don't like the lights I've got?
No, we don't, actually. And if you just get plain ones, you don't get all the fancy doohickeys. If somebody laid some LED Christmas lights on me, I'd go, yeah, thank you. I'm going to put these up.
Cool.
Now
Now we know what to put in your stocking for Christmas this
Exactly.
year.
So if you use LEDs, you'll use up to 70% less energy than you would with traditional incandescent bulbs. Plus, you won't need to replace lights as often. Probably, although the wires tend to go bad.
Yeah, and you can still step on them and break them.
There you go.
But one bulb goes out. The whole string doesn't go out on an LED.
Yeah. And so Eleanor Stokes, a research scientist at the University of Maryland who has worked with NASA to gather satellite data on our lighting habits, agreed. I'm all about being festive, she says, but you don't need to be festive at like 3 a.m. Putting your lights on a timer can have a huge benefit, she said. The Energy Department recommends leaving them on. You can do it up to 8 hours from dusk to midnight. It's in here in Chicago, it's 4 to midnight.
What's 4 to midnight?
The darkness. Not only will this conserve energy, but it's better for wildlife. Let's not forget that. Light pollution, our friend Audrey Fisher would tell us about that. Light pollution can be deadly for some animals. It's deadly for humans, too, folks. Another tip, use an extension cord in places where you want to connect strings but don't really need lights. Yeah, some people just buy another string, so it works. If you're lighting candles this season, try to stay away from petroleum-based paraffin ones and instead opt for candles made from soy, beeswax, or natural vegetable-based.
And scent-free. Because most of the scented ones are artificial scent.
Aha. Good.
Unless you've got really good candles with essential oils in them.
Unless you did them yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, or you can get soy ones with actual essential oils. But most of them are artificial scents that who knows what they actually are.
When the holidays are over, don't forget to promptly, this is the New York Times, by the way. When the holidays are over, don't forget to promptly take the lights down.
Define promptly.
Ho, ho, ho.
Didn't you have your lights on at Halloween? That
I-
was, yeah.
Yeah, no, I just ran them through the whole year. It's like, and then.
No, you had that photo from all the snow from Halloween when it
Oh, yeah.
snowed like crazy and
Because
you turned the lights on.
The lights were still up.
That was so cool.
But I don't turn them on.
No.
I just leave them.
Yeah, why not?
I took down the colored ones that were on the sumac because I didn't want to hurt the sumac. But the ones that were on the lilac, who cares about a lilac? And the viburnum, left them in there because.
It's festive.
Well, no, the leaves, it leafed out. You couldn't see the wires. You don't even know the
And you're
lights
going
are
to
still on.
damage the tree taking them off.
No, not really. Not that.
Come on, it sounds good.
It's not. It's bogus. Take the lights down, pack the candles up, store everything properly, which is always, grab. Yeah, the way a lot of people do is grab the bunch of lights, just shove them in a box, and then they wonder why they don't work next year.
And put a tag on them that some of it doesn't work so that you remember next year. And then you can take your lights right after Christmas, and we'll be talking about this, I'm sure. A lot of places have holiday light recycling.
Yeah. Scarce does, and other places
City of
do.
Chicago, there's a
Yeah.
lot of places you
Yeah.
can bring them. Yeah.
And if you aim for maximum efficiency, they'll account for only a small fraction of your total energy footprint, just a few dollars a month. And unless you're one of those homes that lights up the entire home and the entire home is flooded with lights, like the crazy place in my neighborhood in Logan Square, the nutty home
But they're a tourist attraction.
on the boulevard. Oh, boy. Oi to the world. So there you go. That's it about lights. Hey,
but
we've only got a couple minutes. We played the commercial just a few minutes ago about being at City Grange this Thursday. The Frozen Robins will be there. So come on over to our great sponsor, City Grange, 6:30 to 8, and we'll be caroling and having fun. All right, so I want you to take advantage of that 5500 Northwestern Avenue at Catalpa. But again, as we also mentioned, next week is the annual It's a Wonderful Slice of It's a Wonderful Life. Now, if things are as chaotic in here as they were today, we're screwed. All right, we're totally screwed.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of headsets here, a lot of mics
We're going to
working.
need headsets actually with connectors to them. That would be good. Otherwise, I'm just going to start stripping wires and plugging them in wherever I can.
Well, and that's going to be in hour 2. And then in hour 1, we've got some great gift ideas, though, when we're talking houseplants.
That's true, because we're going to have Lisa Steinkoff back on. She's got a new book called Grow in the Dark, which is about low-light houseplants. And if you're like me, you need low-light houseplants. I don't even know how my plants survive, because in the summer I take them outside and they have all this light and they're really happy. And then I bring them
And now
in,
they're sulking.
and then they're whining and crying and sobbing in the darkness. And some of them drop leaves and some of them don't. And I'm going to ask
Lisa.
about my King Aurelia. I ask every person who comes on the show about how I keep, and I think I might have discovered one of the things I was doing wrong with it. I have it in a ceramic pot, and I was doing a little research and says it doesn't like to be in wet feet. And I went, oh, well, get it out of a ceramic pot if you want that. I mean,
So
even
you put it into a clay pot then.
yeah, probably just anything that's going to let it the water wick out from it a little more efficiently. There are certain plants you want to do that.
So what type of condition does the Aurelia really like?
Like most indirect bright light, it needs a bit of warmth, and it wants regular watering, but it doesn't want to sit in wet soil. That's kind of that's the playbook for about 80% of plants out there, tropicals that you have indoors. Some of them are even easier to take care of, and that's one of the things we'll talk about with Lisa Steinkoff next week. So we got like 60 seconds here. What have we missed that we wanted to?
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about Christmas trees. We're almost out of time, but it's interesting and maybe we can get into this a little next week. There is a definite lack of trees this year, and the prices have gone up a lot, and a lot of that is climate change. There's been a lot of flooding that flooded out seedlings due to damp conditions. There's been a lot of fungus and diseases and insects that have taken over a lot of the Christmas tree farms this year, especially in Missouri.
Wow. I had no ideas. I hadn't seen this in any of those headlines. All those horticultural headlines that I get coming across my inbox.
So the price of trees has gone up a lot.
So I'm decorating my chiflura.
There you
I'm
go.
putting lights on my chiflura because it's 8 feet tall. All right. Rick DeMaio is coming up next. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back.
I am Santa Claus.
Oh boy.
Ho, 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 ho. Flying through the snow, can you hear him? Ho, ho, ho. He's so full of
This is what happens when the computer gets fixed.
Yep. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. You know,
That got a few hearts coming through on Facebook.
oh, right. Ozzy Osbourne doing a Christmas carol. That's as close as he gets. Welcome to the show. I would play the whole thing if I could. It's pretty awesome. And those of you who don't know who Ozzy Osbourne is, there's nothing I can do to help you, but I can kind of give you a hint.
Hi, this is Ozzy Osbourne. Have a wonderful, crazy Christmas and a wonderful, crazy New Year. Go and go crazy.
He had a reality show for a little while, didn't he? The Osbournes.
Yeah, he did. Welcome back to the show. Let's go right to meteorologist Rick DeMaio, who's a huge Ozzy Osbourne fan. Right, Rick?
Yeah, I actually saw him a couple of times. How was that jingle going to sound in the state of Illinois on January 1st, though?
There we go.
Yeah, I think I liked it, man. That was cool.
Wow.
I'm betting a lot of your students
Yeah,
are
dude.
not Ozzy Osbourne fans.
No. There, you know what? You know, it's weird how like music comes back around, and now they have these things called sampling, where they inject something. They go, oh
Sure.
yeah, that's a great part of the song. Where they have really no knowledge of perspective of the song itself, or what the meaning is, or the album, and all that other stuff. I don't get me started on that. But I just stepped in from outside, guys. It's chilly out there, but I was putting up some more Christmas lights and leaf blowing. Was that okay?
Sure, whatever you need to do, Rick.
No, he was taking the leaf blower to get the Christmas lights off the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He was blowing the
But-
neighbor's little dog across the yard is what he was doing.
But Peg, I think it's interesting that you brought up that thing about leaf blowing. We had such a weird end of autumn that here in Evanston they keep putting these signs up that they're going to clean the streets, and there's still a lot of leaves on the streets because we had snow for a while. So I think they had to basically take their crews and become snow plowers as opposed to leaf blowers. So maybe in some areas you do have a little bit of leaf blowing to go through, but I agree with you. Enough with these blowers. Just rake it up. It's good for the back. It's good for the arms, and it's good for the environment, right? All the way around.
I love it.
There you go.
So we continue to be in sort of the doldrums here in Chicago. Not a lot going on.
No, and this was the pattern that I talked about almost a month ago.
Right.
A split flow. Storms moving across the northern sections of New England and Northeast. They just had another massive amounts of rain and snow, generally north of your big cities. You didn't hear a lot about it on the news. The next system is now trending more south of us, and I just sent you guys some updated information. This was a really tough call about 3 or 4 days ago because some of the U.S. forecast models were taking this basically right across northern Illinois, where you hate to say it, but the European model, the outlier, was actually the better of all four. and how that model continues to pick up on some of these subtle, or I should say more subtle waves that come through the Rocky Mountains. It seems to do a better job with how things develop once they've basically crossed over the Southern Rockies. And some models have a certain tendency that other models don't. But when you see that European high-res model show everything south 4 days ago, and the 3 ERS models did not, and now Saturday night and Sunday morning, all 4 are going south, you go, all right, what do they got that we don't got?
Yeah, why did that work for them? Yeah.
I don't know, Peg, but they continue to be able to resolve the lower parts of the atmosphere better than our forecast models, not only in winter storms, but also in hurricanes as well. So what this means to the traveling public is that if you're heading down to, say, St. Louis or Indianapolis late tonight or tomorrow, there's going to be not one but 2 different storm systems, both of them producing anywhere between 2 and as much as 4 inches of snow. So when we show you like the visible satellite imagery by probably like Tuesday afternoon, there's going to be a strip of white that goes all the way from basically Kansas City to St. Louis to Indianapolis, and Chicago is going to be in the brown. And we've been in the brown now for over a month, and it looks like we may be in the brown, guys, all the way up to Christmas Day.
What? Oh, come on, man. I
know. I predicted this. I said white Halloween, brown Thanksgiving, green Christmas, and that's what we're having, right? I mean, it's kind of working in that way.
What about New Year's?
New Year's Eve or New Year's Day? Because I'm looking forward to New Year's Day more than New Year's Eve, Peg.
Well, we were talking about the Christmas bird count on New Year's Day. What's the weather?
You know what? At this point, it looks like it's going to somewhat stay seasonal, but I have to turn you on to a study that was done by one of our professors in the Department of Sustainability at Loyola. I'm getting my schools mixed up here. And they actually do a bird count literally weekly at Loyola University. So if you look it up in what's called the Loyola Phoenix, that's the weekly newspaper.
Okay.
I think that'll kind of help you out a little bit. Yeah, it's really, really interesting stuff. Not only does Northwestern do it, but probably Loyola as well. So that'll kind of go hand in hand with what you're going to do during, I think you set up in Waukegan you want to go?
Yeah, it's the Waukegan bird count.
We'll see how the weather works. Yeah, we'll see how that works out weather-wise. But at this point, I'm saying seasonable weather right through the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, because there's been some New Year's days that have been really cold.
Oh, yeah. I think it was a couple of years ago we had the coldest New Year's Day ever. But again, it was odd because we still didn't have much in the way of snow on the ground, and that kind of has been the trend. Snowy late Octobers and Novembers, and then generally dry, or at least snow-free, I should say, Decembers. And we'll see whether or not the next 2 weeks give us anything in the way of precipitation in the form of rain. I don't think so, but the next little system could give us a little bit of wet stuff during the day on Saturday. So, bottom line, guys, snow south of us, 40s by Friday, and also 40s by Sunday, Mike. So you were talking about that early in the show, and it looks like that's going to come through by the end of the week.
Okay, fantastic. Rick, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation in January about climate. We're going to devote a whole hour to the show. And we'll talk to you next week.
I'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Thanks to Tom Bassett-Dilley, Nate Kipnis, and, of course, Rick DeMaio, Ellie, and Andrew. Until next time, go green or...
go home.
Stadler?
Yeah, what?
Is that it?
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.
Oh my God!